everybody. I'm Laura Trump coming to you from my home in New York. Democrats may take America's youth for granted, but they've got more reason than ever to support Donald Trump. Joining me is the founder and co-chair of Students for Trump, Ryan Fournier. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Laura.
All right, I think that the youth vote and the students across this country are becoming more and more informed every single day, thanks to amazing organizations like yours. So tell us about Students for Trump and why it's important that we fight for America's youth in this election.
Yeah, so this is something Charlie Kirk and I are spearheading, probably arguably one of the most aggressive conservative student outreach campaigns in the history of presidential elections. We're targeting these college campuses where the left believes they have this unfettered pathway, if you will, through the college campus to the White House. And the thing is, Laura, that I've noticed is students are tired of this carrot stick approach that the left always takes with youth. They promise all of these things that sound great on paper, but virtually never happen or can't happen, such as eliminating student loan debt, which, you know, you and I both know that's nothing more than taking the debt from the student and put it on the back of the American taxpayer. President Trump has been very vocal about trade schools, about coming out of college, starting a small business, becoming an entrepreneur, investing in an idea you believe in. He has empowered the youth in this country unlike any other president in recent modern day history.
Yeah, he really has. And then you compare our president, President Donald Trump, to the person that the Democrats, Ryan, have propped up enough to miraculously become their presumptive nominee for the Democrats, Joe Biden, who a lot of times doesn't really even know where he is. He's very out of touch, I think, with a lot of people in this country. But how is Joe Biden out of touch with the needs of young people today?
You know, when you look at Joe Biden, he is the epitome of a politician with handlers that order him around. In today's day and age, this generation loves authenticity.
Right.
They want somebody who's going to go out there and say it like it is, because it's just how this generation is. I've been on the college campuses. Joe Biden doesn't have the energy to win the youth vote like Barack Obama did in 2008 and 2012. He just doesn't. When you look at the DNC and what they did in 2016 to Bernie Sanders, and then we see somewhat of a repeat in 2016, they're rigging it again. They're getting rid of the preferred candidate, the guy who actually had admirers and followers and an amazing movement. I'll give him credit. And they're doing it again for a guy who calls the president of the United States President Tweety because he doesn't like how the president goes directly to the American people and knows how to use the digital route, right? Yeah, what a name. President Tweety. It's like when he emblazoned no malarkey on his bus. What does that even mean, Laura? When was the last time you've heard that? I've never even heard that before. Or when he called, and this is the funniest part, well, not so funny, but when he called a college-age student a lying dog-faced pony soldier. I mean, he's literally throwing out the youth vote day by day.
Yeah, it's actually unbelievable. By the way, to your question about malarkey, I remember my dad using the term malarkey when I was maybe like 6 or 7 years old, and my brother and I being like, what the heck is he talking about? I didn't know what malarkey was, and we're talking about 25, 30 years ago. How the heck anybody knows what malarkey is now? I don't know, but that's on Joe Biden. But I think you're right. I think you keyed into something that is very interesting, and I think about it all the time. Like Donald Trump or hate him, he is who he is. He makes no apologies about it. He puts himself out there. And it seems like Joe Biden every single day, Ryan, we see this guy just kind of being formed by his handlers, to your point. This guy doesn't really even know what he stands for, if he knows anything about what's going on right now. And I think it's very clear to people that he doesn't really stand for anything. He's just doing what people are telling him he needs to do in order to pander and get votes. And I don't think it's going to work, whether we're talking about the youth in this country, the black vote in this country, the women's vote in this country. You can't just pander to everybody and say things that you think they'll like, but then you've said other things that contradict that, maybe hours before. It doesn't make sense to anybody. Is anybody buying this with Joe Biden?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, you see the guy go on camera. He can barely get sentences out there. I really do feel bad for him. I
I do
really
too.
feel bad for him. It's almost as if he's being pushed or forced to do this, and it's just not right. I mean, when you look at his campaign and you compare it to Hillary Clinton had a lot of baggage. Joe Biden also has a lot of baggage, a lot of stuff coming out recently on Joe Biden. The one thing that I would compare between the two is the big difference between that is Hillary Clinton was a decent debater. Joe Biden is not a decent debater. So I can't wait for the elections. But I mean, I will say, I don't think he's prepared for this. I don't think he's prepared to take on 4 and possibly 8 years in the White House, because it makes you think, who is going to be running that White House if Joe Biden is elected? Because it's not going to be Joe Biden.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I just want to switch topics very quickly. We are obviously still in the days of coronavirus, and I am at home in New York. You are at home in North Carolina. We share
My
that
garage.
in common. I love it in your garage. But I think we all feel the same way, Ryan. We feel like, look, we did what was asked of us. We flattened the curve. We stayed home. A lot of people have not received a paycheck in a long time. Some people lost their jobs permanently because of this crisis. And we're ready to get back to life. We're ready to get back to work. And it seems like the Democrats continue to exploit this crisis by extending lockdowns that are truly damaging our economy. What is going on here? Why does it seem like the Republicans in the country, Republican governors, Republican mayors, want to get things back up and running, but the Democrats are okay with us continuing the lockdown? What's happening here?
Well, the Democrats are exploiting this strategy to the best of their ability. It's like what Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste. I mean, you see these extended government shutdowns are destroying local and state economies. You're expecting over 100,000 small businesses to be wiped out, 30 plus million people unemployed. For the last 60 years, conservatives have been pushing this constant message, really exhausting ourselves, saying the dangers of big government. And people are living in it. They're getting their small little sample of communism, I would add on to that. People are seeing how dangerous it is when government overreach becomes so powerful that it infringes upon your personal liberties and free enterprise. I would say that you're not going to see many people flocking to the left for Gretchen Whitmer or Andrew Cuomo or Ralph Northam, because it's almost as if they become the poster child for descendants of King George III. It's just the truth about it. People are mad. They're upset. They're protesting. The Constitution is 100% always essential. And when you see these governors threatening to extend lockdowns, arresting people for wanting to open up their businesses, giving out these massive fines to churches for wanting to hold service in their parking lot while everybody's in their cars, social distancing, it's ridiculous. And people are going to remember this stuff when they go to the polls. And to end that point, I think people during a crisis, in the midst of this crisis, we should be working tirelessly, really to protect and defend these freedoms that we have, instead of ceding it to, these would-be tyrants for their quote unquote safety and protection. We should be looking at the Constitution all the time and noting that it is always 100% essential, and it does not get thrown out the door just because a crisis happens.
Yeah, and by the way, your point about getting a small taste of communism, of socialism, which is what a lot of folks on the left would like to see happen in this country. I thought about this, Ryan, when I was standing in line at the grocery store, literally with a mask on, 6 feet away from the person in front of me, 6 feet away from the person behind me, waiting in line to get in the grocery store. Then I get in the grocery store, and they have little signs up in the grocery store. You're limited to 2 rolls of paper towels. You are limited to 2 packages of yeast. And I literally thought to myself in this moment, wow, this is what could happen in this country. This is what socialism and communism does to a country. People are getting a sample of it now. So I want to be very clear to everybody out there. If you have a problem with this, and if you don't want to see this extended for a second, longer than is absolutely vital, you better make sure you take a long, hard look at the two parties we have in this country. There is one party that is standing up for your freedom and for your liberties and for the Constitution, and it is the Republican Party. The folks on the other side want to take us a direction that would make things like this, Ryan, permanent in this country. It is a very, very scary prospect. So I want to give you an opportunity to maybe leave our folks joining us today with a message for the students out there, for the young folks out there. What do you say to these people whenever they're not sure if they want to vote for Donald Trump? Maybe they're going to cast their first vote in this upcoming election. What would you say to them?
Well, to add on to your last point, Laura, if people can wait in line to get into Walmart or Home Depot or Lowe's, they can wait in line in November to reelect this president. But to respond to that point, young people all across the country are not stupid. Yep. They're not. They're very much so awake. They're awoken by the fact that the left has done the thing that they did in 2016 again. They sidelined the candidate of preferred choice among young people. While Joe Biden was winning 2/3 of the vote, 45 and above in primary states, 2/3 of the vote for Bernie Sanders were under that age, millennials, 18 to 35. People aren't awakened to Joe Biden. They don't see hope in Joe Biden. But when you look at President Trump, he is out there to make America better than when he picked it up. He's going to leave this country in a much better condition. And I think that when we go to these college campuses and we reach out to these students and we have these conversations, these debates and these discussions, and I've experienced it many times myself. You'll run into students who see something on the news and they may believe it. They'll read a headline, they'll watch Rachel Maddow, and then you go dispute it with facts. You give them facts, you give them the right stuff, you put them in the right direction, and they start to think, well, maybe I've been lied to my whole life. Maybe I've been reading the wrong stuff. Maybe this is just biased news. And they come out of it with a different perspective a lot of times, and you really wake people up. And so it's really about having those conversations. It's really about going on those college campuses and engaging with the students, having events where, what you did at NC State with Charlie Kirk, coming out, bringing out you, Kim, Ivanka, Don, the president, Matt Gaetz, all these different speakers, and really engaging the crowds in different ways that presidential candidates really haven't done before. Going directly to them on the college campus and talking to them as an equal and not as if they're looking from a bird's eye view down.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, I just want to say we appreciate so much what you're doing. I think it is so important engaging the youth of this country, students all across this country. Students for Trump is awesome. I follow everything you guys do. So thanks so much for everything you do every day to fight for this country, to fight for this president. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Laura.
With so much at stake, America's youth is counting on Donald Trump to preserve their future, and he will deliver. That's the real news for today. If you'd like to get involved with Team Trump, go to donaldjtrump.com or download the official Trump 2020 app from the App Store or the Google Play Store. I'm Laura Trump, coming to you from my home in New York, encouraging you to stay safe throughout this crisis. Thanks for joining us, everybody.